Have you ever driven down a road that seemed to lead nowhere? A place not on any map, a town that shouldn't exist. This is a story of such a town, a cursed place, forgotten by time but alive with dark secrets. A town where people disappear, and reality itself shatters. This story begins with Daniel, a curious wanderer who loved venturing down paths unknown. On a cold autumn night, while driving through winding back roads, he noticed an old, rusted sign reading, "Welcome to Raven Hollow." He'd never heard of it, and the name wasn't on his GPS. Curiosity got the better of him. He turned down the dark, fog-covered road that led into the heart of the forgotten town. As Daniel drove in, Raven Hollow felt wrong. The air was thick, the houses abandoned, and the only sounds were the howling wind and distant whispers, almost like voices. But he saw no one. He decided to park and walk down the cobblestone street, his footsteps echoing. Each step seemed to take him deeper, not just into the town, but into something beyond his comprehension. He soon realized every window had eyes watching him. No people, just eyes. They were reflections of his own face staring back at him, but distorted, twisted with fear and pain. As he moved forward, an old woman appeared from the shadows. She looked fragile, her skin as pale as the fog around them, her eyes like deep wells of sorrow. She whispered, "Leave now, before they find you." But before he could respond, she vanished, as if the fog had swallowed her whole. At this point, Daniel's mind was screaming to turn back, but something else something dark compelled him to stay. He continued exploring, eventually reaching a grand, decaying mansion at the edge of town. The doors creaked open as if inviting him in. Inside, the walls were covered in paintings, each one depicting the same woman he saw in the street, but younger. And each painting showed her with different townsfolk, in places that felt familiar, as if he'd been there before. He started to realize the faces in the paintings matched his own memories, yet he'd never been here. Or had he? In the basement of the mansion, Daniel stumbled upon an old journal. Its pages revealed a chilling story. The town, Raven Hollow, was cursed long ago. Anyone who entered could never leave. They would eventually vanish, consumed by their own fears, transformed into hollow versions of themselves, forever trapped in the town's twisted mirrors. The townsfolk had tried everything to escape, but the curse only grew stronger with each attempt. And here was the horrifying twist: Daniel found his own name in the journal, written over and over, as if he had been here many times before. In every entry, he had entered the town, learned of the curse, and vanished, only to come back again. Every single time, he was drawn back to Raven Hollow, an endless loop he couldn't remember. In a panic, Daniel ran back into the streets, but they had changed. Paths twisted and curved in impossible ways, every turn leading him back to the mansion. He saw shadowy figures emerging from the fog, townsfolk with hollow faces, blank eyes, reaching out to him, calling his name. They were his own reflections, the versions of him who had come before, trapped, cursed to roam the streets forever. Just as the shadows closed in around him, he saw her again, the woman who had warned him. This time, her face was clear, and he recognized her. It was his mother. She whispered, "They took me to Daniel. I'm sorry." And with those words, the fog grew thicker, consuming him completely. When he opened his eyes, he was back in his car, outside the town, as if it had all been a dream. But in his rearview mirror, he saw Raven Hollow, fog-covered, waiting for his return. His mother's voice echoed in his mind, "They took me to." A tear slipped down his face as he realized he was destined to return. Now, if you ever find yourself on a lonely road with a sign to a town you've never heard of, remember Daniel's story. Because some towns are not meant to be found.